Rightio, let's do this. Hey, g'day everybody and welcome back. We're going to do the floats and the bench sinking today. So first job is to get all of the float bowls off and we'll set them with a vernier caliper. Alright, so where we measure from is from here down to where the gasket sits on the body, and the measurement that we're looking for is 22.4 millimeters plus or minus 1 millimeter. Oh, so that's actually a little bit low in the bowl, so high from where we're measuring. Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, so all we need to do is bend this tab up a little bit. And measure again. And that is pretty bloody good. Right, so then we just do that to all of them. Alright, so they're all 22.4 millimeters. But we need to validate that it is actually working and doing what it says it should do. So in order to do that, we put all the float bowls back on and put some fuel in them and make sure that it's not going to flood the fuel bowl. That it's sitting, I think it's about 2.8 millimeters below the casing. Alright, now I mentioned in the last video that I was going to make one of these but lost the bolt. I found the bolt. So this is a tool that I use to validate that the float levels are working right. So we need a tool, make a tool. We're going to have to make a new one of these to fit these carburetors. But if you remember, one of them has an odd size bolt, so we'll just swap the one of the bowls for this bowl when we do this carburetor. But the first thing we need to do is make up that hose fitting so that we can put some fuel in these and make sure that they're not going to flood. This whole toolbox thing is driving me insane. Right, so taking me twice as long to find anything. So I have our little bolt, I have a hose tail, and the plan is to cut the hose tail off, silver solder it onto the bolt and then drill through it. Hacksaw blade next to useless, but it's all I've got to work with. Alright, so that's going to go on there. Alright, what we have here is silver soldering flux and silver solder, not that shit the plumbers use either. This is proper stuff. Now I guess you could use epoxy or something like that if you didn't have access to or have silver solder. This flux is a bit dry, but I'll see how we go with it. Put a little dab, put plenty on there. Basically where the flux is where the silver solder will run. What I plan to do is deposit silver solder onto the bolt and then sweat the hose tail onto it. Contact. I'm doing this on a brick. As robots and that actually pointed out to me in the last video when I tried to solder that or unsolder that wire on the starter motor, that the vice was being a very good heat sink, and he's right, of course. So this time we'll put it on a brick. And that's now filled with solder. This time we'll put it on a brick so that we don't have it working as a heat sink. Come on, be nice to me. Alright, let's get that hot. No, it's moving. Making it look hard, Andy. So this is reality, I guess. And maybe I'm losing my touch. Many years ago, it's got very good tensile strength, this silver solder. Many years ago, I used to compete in another life. I used to compete in four-wheel drive competitions, and I had an ARB air compressor that I sheared the crankshaft on, and I sheared it because I actually mounted it in a position where it was not very conducive. It didn't like it, and the angle sheared the bloody crankshaft. And I silver soldered it together. Thought, oh well, that'll do me until I can get another one. About 5 years later, I sold that truck with that air compressor still on there going. Let's try again. Right, I think we've had success. Goodness gracious me, how hard was that? It's a little bit crooked looking, but hey, that's it. That'll do. Cool that. Wait till that cools down now, and then we can have a bit more of a play. Right, so that's now soldered on. Oh, eventually. So now I'm going to drill a hole in it. Now, normally I would drill from the top. I'd use this to chase to guide the drill. But because this is so small, I'm going to drill it from the bottom. I'm just going to drill through. At work I've got a good Makita brushless drill. But here I only have this little aceto, and it's a little bit on the insipid side, if I'm honest. Doesn't have any RPM. Cutting oil on it. Right. We're through. So all we have to do now is take a little bit of clear hose, push that on, and we now have a tool to validate our float levels. Got a gasket on it. Bob's your uncle. Alright, so before we get too involved, a couple of people have pointed out that the magic number for the air fuel mixture screws is actually 2.5 turns out. I set them at 1.5, so I'm just going to wind them out another turn. Alright, that's done. Now we need to make sure they're level, sitting on the vice level, which is around about there. Alright, I don't know how much of that I captured or lost, because camera 1 over here is the one that's recording the audio, and I had it positioned off over my right shoulder, and the last 2 captures on there were actually photographs, not video, so there's no sound gone into it for a little bit. So if there's been a dip in the sound quality, it's because I've had to pull it off one of the other GoPros that doesn't have the microphone attached. Anywho, here we are. So we've successfully soldered and mounted our hose tail, and we have our bit of plastic hose. I have rigged up a fuel tank, which is the one that I use for on-bike tuning when I've got the fuel tank off. Of course, you could use anything. I've just got some petrol in there. Now, the problem with the now that I've been mucking around with it, I'll just better recheck that they're level again. Yep, they're cool. The problem that we've got with these carburetors is it's a single T for the fuel to go into the bowls, which means they're all going to fill up, which means I'm going to have to drain every one of them that I do this on. Now, probably the better way to do it would be to do each carburetor individually before you assemble them as a bank. But we'll give it a crack. So we need to turn on the fuel, turn on the valve, let it run down into the bowls. Alright, so we can see this first one, we've got a bit of work to do because it is raising above. We actually want that fuel level down around where my fingernail is, 2 to 3 millimeters below this, where the gasket would sit up in there. So that one's, the float is too high. Now this is the one I think that we had the repaired post in, so we need to look into that. Now what I'm going to do is just drain the fuel out of that bowl. And drain the one beside it. Right, then we'll remove this guy. Just check them in this, make sure see how the other ones look before we go attacking that one. Oh, yeah, okay. And that one's actually pretty bloody good. So he's working fine. So now I'm just going to turn the carburetors around so that I can access the other two. Being careful not to knock the fuel tank off the shelf. Level them again. Yep, that one's fine too. Now this last one we're going to have to swap a bowl. Yep, pretty bloody good. Alright, so this is about somewhere between 2 and 3 millimeters below the edge. So he's good too. So we've only got the one carburetor, which is the one that we've got the repaired post on. That isn't playing the game. It's like it's stuck. So that's why we do this. That's why you need to validate it. We measured it and it was fine, but we go to put it in a real world situation where we've got fuel in the bowl and it's not fine. So we need to understand now why. Oh, sorry guys, I pulled the bowl off and I started fiddling with it before I turned on the camera. Let me just see what we can. Let's just see what we can see now. What I noticed was there wasn't a lot of. It wasn't able to droop down very far, and I think that the problem there is that this post here is just too wide there. So I actually sort of bent it back up a bit. It's a little bit better, but it's still not right. So I need to, probably just need to, oh no, that's okay now. It should be going full tilt now. But I need to make sure that the level is set correctly because I've bent it now. So it's probably going to be too high. Incoming. I'll stop it. Right, so I've popped it off, looking at the one adjacent to it, and the problem seems to be that at the moment actually it might be sitting high, but there's a little tab on the float that's sitting against the new post, and it might be that I haven't drilled that pin exactly 100% true, and it might be hitting the post too early. This one's got a much bigger gap. Hang on, see if I can give you a bit better look at that. So this one, you can see there's a tang there, and it's got quite a bit of clearance. This one, it's right up against the post. So I just need to make sure that it's away from the post in the rest position. I'll try and bend it. Try and bend that little tab. Maybe that'll work. Alright, that's better. It's about the same distance now. Now let's have a look at the height, 22.4 millimeters. And it's a bit, float's a little low, so I'll just try and bend the tab up. Might be a little high now. There it is. What's this side like? Yeah, it's about a millimetre too high now, so I'll just bend him back down. Oh, it's way high. Sorry, way low. It's not too bad that side. So this side's a little bit, I haven't got that hole drilled very nicely. Alright, so I need to try and bend the right hand float down a bit. course, oh shit, it bends heaps. Didn't think it'd bend that easily. Right, they're within a knit's diddle of each other. Alright, so let's put the bowl back on and we'll try that again. Alright, so we've re-leveled, put it back on. Let's see how we go this time. Yep, that looks fine. Alright, that's good. So we've sorted that out. So that's why you validate them. Imagine if we just measured that and put it on the bike, that would have gone to custard pretty bloody quick. It wouldn't have worked. So we drain them all now, and we'll bench sync them. Alright, so we're back at it. As I mentioned earlier in another video, carburetor number 1, 2, 3 is the master carburetor. He's got the cable connected and drives all of the other carburetors. So bench synchronization is purely a mechanical synchronization. It does not account for any variations within your engine manifolds, conditions, etc. You need to do that with a proper set of vacuum gauges, and we'll do it when we get the bike running. But we want to get as close as possible. A lot of people get caught up with the whole, oh, I've got to sync my carbs. If your bike's running rough, 99.999% of the time, it won't be the carburetor synchronization. It would have to be horrendously out for the bike to run terrible. Normally it's a jet related issue or float level related issue. Anyway, that being said, we're back on the guitar string. I like to use a guitar string because it's small and it won't crush under the weight of the spring. You can use, like if you've got a brand new drill bit, a small one, or you know, whatever you can get your hands on, even something like this, although that's tapered, which will give you a skewed result. So what we're going to try and achieve here is have all of these butterflies in the same position at the same point of rotation on the butterfly shafts, and that's adjusted here. It's adjusted here by these 3 screws. This one we can't adjust. That adjusts carburetor number 4. That adjusts carburetor number 2 to 3, and this adjusts carburetor number 1 to 2. So what I do is the idle adjustment here, so we don't have a lot of influence on carburetors outside of changing jets, etc. So our external tuning, or if you want to call it that, dialing them in, comes from only a couple of things that we can actually change on the carburetor. One of them is the idle speed. So this, by winding this clockwise, we turn the butterfly shaft once we get into contact with it. Alright, so we're now turning the butterfly shaft. So we're opening those butterflies, and that therefore increases the amount of air and fuel that's coming into the engine, and the RPMs go up. So that's your idle. We've also got our air fuel mixture screws here on our pilot circuit that we can adjust, and we've set them now to 2.5 turns out from bottom. And the only other adjustment we've got externally is this synchronization. So how we do that, or how I do it, pre-installation on the bike, is take some very fine wire, like this guitar string, pop him in that carburetor there, and then back the idle screw off until such time as the butterfly closes down on it, which it now has done. So I can just drag, I've just got a little bit of drag on that coming in and out, Just the tiniest little bit of drag. So essentially what we're doing, these glasses keep falling off because it's got a wonky. Essentially what we're doing is using this wire as a feeler gauge. So now that's our standard, that's our set carburetor. So we need to try carburetor number 1 now, and I can get the wire in. It's actually pretty close, but let's for the sake of the purpose of the exercise, we just crack this nut, use a screwdriver, and we can either turn it clockwise, which will open the gap up, or anti-clock, which will close the gap. So I've just got that somewhere close to where I feel it is the same. I'm going to give it a blip just to let everything settle. Try it again. And that's just a little bit, oh no, that's all right. Yep, no, that feels good. Yep, that feels nice. So now we'll just nip him up and try and do it without turning the screw. Right. Now, I can't even get it under 2, nor can I get it under 1. So when you've got your gauge, your balance gauges on there, and you're trying to balance your carburetors on the bike, these are the screws that you move. There we go, I can get it in now. Well, it feels about right there. And of course, when you're doing it on the bike and you've got the gauges set up, every time you move one carburetor, the gauges all change. And it's not that everything's going out of sync. All it is that as you adjust the carburetor, you may be opening or closing it, and it changes the RPM, and then that has an influence on the settings of the other carburetors. Good, good, good. Good, good, good. Good, good, good. So 2 have been done. I'll back the nut off. Alright, we're running out of battery. Alright, new GoPro batteries. And I think the microphone battery's nearly stuffed too. But anyway, where were we? So we were adjusting number 4. Can't remember what I was talking about. Alright. He's in. Alright, that's it. Bench synchronization or bench tuning done. So we're now ready to install these on the bike. Oh, sorry, we're not ready to install them on the bike. They're ready to be installed on the bike. Float levels are set and validated, and we have adjusted the M-mixture screws out to 2.5 turns out from bottom, and we have bench synchronized the carburetors, and that's all that we can do now until we get them on and we get the bike to run. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment, and I'll catch you next time on Andy's Motorcycle Obsessions. Bye for now.